Morning, folks. It's December 29th, about 10:40 a.m. It's been a while since I've ranted, and I've got a few minutes, so I thought maybe I'd talk at you for a little bit. Hope you had a good year. Mine has certainly been interesting, if nothing else. And I just wanted to note at this point that I'm very enthused about a good many things, believe it or not, and looking forward to things coming up. I'm particularly excited and grateful for the fact that I was able to finish the two-volume abridgment of Toynbee's A Study of History this year. That really opened my eyes and gave me a fascinating perspective on how to approach history in general, and so I enjoyed that, and particularly with how. Well, there's various things that Toynbee talks about that I think are really rather interesting, not the least of which being, he says this, I think, in his first volume, that one of the reasons why the arts are so distrusted is because that they have this nasty habit of coming up with creative ways of solving problems. And those ways to solve problems can be used again and again and again and again. And I found that to be quite interesting. And if you get a chance to, I would recommend, if you're a history buff like I am, I would suggest either the full 10-volume version of the study of history or the 2-volume abridgment by D.C. Somerville, which I just got through reading. Fascinating read, just really, really fascinating. I'm also well into and will probably complete Oliver Strunk's source readings in music history, probably by the middle of January. I'm towards the last bit of that. And it, again, has been fascinating. And one of the things that I found particularly fascinating is that how, for a long, most of its history, most of music as we understand its history, it has been approached and described in various ways as a science. And I'm not talking about science like test tubes and lab coats and all-night debates over the intellectual distinctions between Trekker and Trekkie. I'm not talking about that kind of science. I'm talking about the science as a specialized subfield of general knowledge. And music has been described as been a science in that sense, really since Boethius onward. And I think that was really quite interesting and reassuring for me. And so I should be almost through with that within, I'd say about a month ago. I just started a book, something I'd been meaning to read. I'd gotten interested in Stoic philosophy. So I picked up an edition by Arcturus, published in 2024, that introduces the writings by Seneca and Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus. And I'm finding this to be quite fascinating. I found particularly the stuff that I've read from Seneca to be interesting and thought-provoking. I'm also looking forward to picking my next music theory composition pedagogy sets of volumes to look through. And chances are those will probably be Galden's 16th century music counterpoint in the 16th century, and also a treatise on composition by a man named Percy Goethius, which was active in England and Britain during the early part of the 20th century. So I'm looking forward to reading those two things, probably more or less simultaneously along with this thing, as well as what I think my next bit of history is going to be is Barbara Tuchman's March of Folly, a book that I've had on my radar for some years to read. I'd read A Distant Mirror, the calamitous 14th century, back in undergraduate school, and have been meaning to get into another one of her volumes at some point, and I'm finally getting a chance to do that. So I'm really looking forward to that, and so that's sort of the books that I'm sort of excited about and have gotten a lot out of. I also wanted to talk a little bit about what I think will probably be my next set of analytical compositional pedagogy type YouTube videos. I've got a quick one that I can put together and present on Max Reger's spiritual song Opus 137 number 6, which will probably happen by the end of January. Fascinating study and an example of how one can evoke a mood of instability, which is basically what the text talks about in music, by such things as tonicizing the leading tone of the home key. If that ain't unstable, I don't know what is. In February, probably February through April, I want to finally put together probably a longer video on Paul Hindemith's Fugue number 1 from the Ludus Tonalis, and particularly with its rhythmic aspects of the subject, which I found to be quite fascinating, as well as some questions that I found in Charles Burkhart's analysis volume on how do we know that this is a cadence, et cetera, et cetera. I found quite, and that has to do a lot with rhythm and texture, more than necessarily harmony, which I thought was quite interesting. So that will probably come up in between February and April. And then in April through May, maybe into the summer, I'm hoping to collaborate with a former student of mine on another basic approach to help kids start composing. And this one will have to do with rhythm and repetition, and how rhythm and repetition and dynamics can be used to create different versions of the same basic idea in a way that kids, probably like middle school on, could try their hand at and see what they think about it. So yeah, so I'm sort of I'm hopeful. Like I say, we need to work the details out. But I'm hoping to collaborate with a former student on that one, a very fine percussionist. And then finally, I just wanted to say, then the other thing I wanted to mention a little bit is and I found this to be quite fascinating. I've been thinking more and more and more and more about the myth of Sisyphus, not just the book or essay by Albert Camus, but also the mythological character and story of Sisyphus, who was condemned to perpetually roll up a very steep hill of boulder, and only get it part way up and then to come back down. And Camus' essay has to do with the fact, that so long as it can be seen, this kind of thing can be seen as a preoccupation, or as something that you're really interested in life, that you can keep going back to and keep engaging in this process, then find that rewarding and worthwhile. Which kind of also sort of resonated a bit with some of the writings that I've been reading from Seneca, the Stoic philosopher. Anyway, so that's kind of where I'm at the moment in terms of things coming up, both in terms of reading and in terms of YouTube videos that I'll be coming up. I'm also finishing up a percussion quintet and am gradually closing in on the duo for cello and piano that I started earlier in the year. So I'm looking forward to that, and I hope you guys have things to look forward to in the new year. Again, hello, nice to see you again, and I will talk at you very soon. Have a good day. Bye for now.